If you think Kansas is just flat fields and wheat, you have not been to Wilson. So this is nestled along the Post Racine Byway. This town is the gateway to the clearest lake in Kansas and also some of the most rugged mountain biking trails in the Midwest, too. So that is where we're going for today's virtual trip for Destination Heartland. I'm Sharon Chen with KCTV5 News. All right, so Wilson, Kansas. It is also the Czech capital of Kansas. So right now I'm going to go ahead and bring in Melinda Merrill, and Melinda is president of the board of Wilson Tourism Hub. Thanks for joining us here today, Melinda.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so let's dig right in. Let's talk about what makes Wilson, Kansas a hidden gem worth visiting.
Well, I think a wonderful thing about Wilson is that it's only 2 miles off of I-70, but it's a whole world away from any place that you might want to that you are living. It's like taking a step back in town. Many of the buildings in the business district are built from the limestone from the area, which is over 100 years old. And then you will also see actually have two payphones in town because we have a local um, telecommunications company who
Uh-huh.
keeps those telephone uh, the telephone payphones going. And then, in addition to coming into this historical town that has been here since starting probably in 1864, we are surrounded by the beautiful hills of the area. We have gorgeous local hiking. We are on a major bird migratory path. We have a beautiful lake, as you mentioned, that is one of the clearest in the state. On that lake, they have kayaking, they have paddle sailboats, they have paddle boats, they have pontoon boats,
Oh, cool.
they have fishing contests in the whole area. We have hunting. So it's a great area to either come and study the historical nature of the town or just get out in the quiet of a small town. You can actually hear church bells ring. People wave to you when you walk across the street. It doesn't matter if they know you or not. So it's really a bygone era.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So let's dig into a little bit about what we talked about at the top of the show, which is Wilson is the Czech capital of Kansas. So let's talk about that because this in itself is so much of the rich history that you can find in Wilson.
That is absolutely right. So officially, Governor Docking proclaimed it the Czech capital of Kansas in 1967. But the real reason behind that is because we had travelers coming from the Czech Republic. As you know, as we had immigrants coming into the United States, they came out on the railroad and they were working for the railroad. They were given free land. Um, and so if one immigrant came, all of a sudden you had all these other immigrants coming, and it became a bohemian community
Mm.
um, as these people were coming on the train to come here. Now, a lot of these immigrants, some came through New York, some came through Chicago, some came through Pennsylvania, but they all came from a certain area and they settled in Wilson, Kansas.
That is neat. So then, given this rich history with the Czech connection, do you see some of that in the architecture and the landmarks in Wilson?
Well, I would say of course, we have the world's largest Czech egg,
Yeah.
which We can talk about that in a little bit
Yeah.
because I think that's very really indicates the area. But I can remember we have interviews with some of the older members of the community who told us how those limestone logs were raised to make these buildings.
Oh, wow.
And it was done by a horse and one man. One of the buildings in particular, the Czech Opera House, was a takeoff on the Opera House that they were bringing from the Czech Republic, and they wanted to recreate what they had there, the operas, the shows, something they called sokals, which are a gym. It's a gymnasium, and they would do competitions with the other sokals in the area. So yes, you could see that was all part of you have to use what is there to make your buildings, and the stone is definitely what was there to make the buildings. The people who came out weren't necessarily stone masons or
Mm-hmm.
any of that, but they quickly learned the agriculture. They quickly learned how to make the buildings. There are no there we are not a wooded area, so what you make buildings with is going to be the stone. And there are quarries all over that area that they pulled the stone in from.
So then, can you tour some of these buildings that were made of limestone there in town?
Oh my goodness, yes. You can tour, well, you tour them. I mean, so in 1899, the Midland Railroad Hotel, which is a stone building, was
Mm-hmm.
made. It was in response to the railroad coming through. Um, it had, it was a boarding house. It was a hotel. It was a place where the salesman would come and show their samples. And it also is an incredible example of architecture from that time period. It did burn once, but they rebuilt it. It's been renovated now. It's a working hotel with two restaurants, 28 rooms. You can go in that. You can sit in the parlor. You can enjoy yourself. Across the railroad tracks, we have the Czech Opera House, which did burn down at one point in time, but is amazing because you can walk into that building and you can see the way the inside of how that stone all fits together. And then you walk down to two buildings, and there's what used to be the recreate. Well, actually, in the early 1900s, they had a second floor that was completely open, and they showcased tractors. And then they had a restaurant on the first floor. And you can walk in that building, you can see exactly the way those structures were made. The entire town is um, is amazing because you can see the way the stone was built. We have kiosks in front of all the historical buildings that actually say what the building was, what it became. We have a bank building there from the early 1900s. We have a gorgeous Catholic church, a
Oh,
gorgeous
wow.
Presbyterian church, a gorgeous Methodist church that were all built out of stone, which are all still functioning. And people can go and they can either go to church there or they can just visit, whatever they'd like to do. But yes, you definitely can see how those massive buildings were built.
Oh, wow. And I bet that architecture is just beautiful too. That is so interesting. Um, on top of what we've already talked about, which we've already talked about so much there in Wilson, let's talk about the big attractions in town. And one of them we talked about is the clearest lake in Kansas. Tell me about this.
Well, the Lake Wilson is a beautiful lake. It has swimming beaches. It has a marina. There are many fishing competitions on there. You see water skiing on there. You see kayaks, you see sailboats. It's a beautiful lake and very well used. People like to come. There are parks all the way around it. So you can either tent camp, you can pull up your RV, whatever the case may be. And then what's perfect is then you can go back into town. You can, if you don't want to cook over the fire, you can
Mm.
cook, you can go to the hotel and have dinner. You can go see the largest world's Czech egg in
Yeah.
downtown Wilson. We have a snack shack there that has lots of hamburgers and stuff that you can go and visit. I mean, it's kind of the best of both worlds. But I will tell you that that epic bike trail is also amazing out there. That is really, that whole area is just an amazing place to take your kids and enjoy the outdoors and still be able to come into town and live that life of a rural community.
That's so neat. I was actually talking to our meteorologist Warren Sears about Wilson, and he knew all about it. And the first thing he told me about was the lake. He said it is so clear that you can go out and you see right to the bottom. And then the second thing he mentioned was the epic trails. So well known out there for sure. And it sounds like it's a great place for a lot of family fun out there.
It is a lot of family fun, and not very far away, the other direction on I-70 is the Cheyenne Bottoms, where we have migratory birds actually going over Lake Wilson, going over Wilson. You see in the spring and the fall huge flocks of migratory birds, of herons, of pelicans, of seagulls. It is truly amazing. And I will tell you the other thing, if you are an astronomer and you like to take your kids out in the country and look at the stars, because we don't have a lot of the white light, it's a great place to learn about all the constellations
Oh.
and actually see any type of uh, constellation you want to see, any solar eclipses. Beautiful, beautiful place for that.
Oh, I bet. I bet because you are away from the bright city lights so you can actually see it. So that is nice.
That's exactly right. And can I mention another thing
Uh-huh.
about the town? Because this at one point in time was below the ocean, we have a tremendous amount of fossils. And I have to say
Oh.
for kids, I mean, I know as a kid, I used to comb those hills to find different fossils to take home. And you can even find shark's teeth. And also in that area, because we had a lot of Native Americans, you can find arrowheads. So it's there is a lot of things to investigate while you're there.
Yeah, it sounds like it for sure. Let's talk about, on top of all the things that we already talked about as far as attractions, what are some of the most iconic sites that people should see there in Wilson? Kind of put on their must see list.
Okay, well, number one, they must see. Um, this was kind of hard to tie this down. They must see the world's largest egg, but along with the world's largest egg, there is a museum that was dedicated to Betty Kepka. And
Oh.
Betty Kepka is the one who taught all of the school children about the motifs of the Czech egg, which is different from the Ukrainian pisanki. Two different types of motifs, but her family was from the Czech Republic, and she became an art teacher in Wilson and taught that skill to a lot of the Wilson kids, which I think is really amazing. And there is a museum that's dedicated to her that I think is incredible
Neat.
to see after you see that egg, so that you kind of understand what that is. Another thing that I think is so, because this is such an old town, there is a round structure that used to be a water tower, and this was in the early 1900s. and then became a jail on the bottom. And you
Oh.
can still see into the jail, which I think is really fun. Um, I, I think a lot of people enjoy that. And I would be neglect if I didn't mention the Midland Railroad Hotel, because that is a fully functioning stone building with a restaurant. And we have a 1907 barn that sits next to it that we use for meetings. And the fascinating thing about that is the barn used to be in the parking lot behind where it is now, because Wilson used to have a racetrack, and that used to be
Oh.
a stud barn for the harness horses. And then when that was no longer going, a farmer moved it out in the country. And then 4 years ago, it was moved back in, and now it is a restaurant, bar, meetings. We have festivals that are out in the lawn. It's
Hmm.
an unbelievable facility to believe, number one, that it was built in 1907, and number two, that it went all the way out in the country and came all the way back in one piece,
Oh, wow.
which I think, and we do have a video of that. I think that is just amazing. So I do think that is a fun thing to see. Um, I think also there is, because we are a Czech community. A couple of years ago, we brought a Czech artist from the Czech Republic over to
Hmm.
spend a month in Wilson. A, um, a limestone table that
Oh,
is
wow.
outside the hotel, but he also painted a mural using the motif, the village motifs from his Czech Republic home, on a barn as you come into town. I think that's just an incredible thing to see, because it's the same type of images that you see on a lot of the Czech ware that comes to this country.
That's so neat. And you know what is so neat about this is it seems like there's such an appreciation for art there because of, the Czech egg and the murals and everything. We are we still have so much to talk about in Wilson, but what we want to do right now is just take a quick break and then we will be back with more on Wilson and Melinda. So stay tuned to Destination Heartland. And welcome back to Destination Heartland. Today we are taking a virtual tour of Wilson. I got to tell you, there's so much here in this town to check out. So, on that note, right now, I'm going to bring back in Melinda Merrill. Okay, Melinda, so right before we went to break, we were talking about big attractions. And one of the main attractions in town are the museums. There's so many great museums in Wilson.
There really are. We have the Wilson Heritage Museum, which not only follows our ancestors, but also follows the development of the community, and where we're going. It's a great. They've done a beautiful job of collecting things that will express what Wilson is about. And then we have the Betty Kepka Museum, which is a museum that is all it's a comprehensive collection of her paintings. We have about 300 of her Czech eggs. Then we have costumes. In addition to that, we have the Jellison Museum, which is an exhibition that we did with the University of Kansas. And Arthur Jellison was a photographer in the 30s and 40s, and University of Kansas was kind enough to give us a lot of the photographs that were from our area, which we then were able to turn into an exhibit. And now we are doing his 16 millimeter films so that people can see that time period and the development of the dam and all of that, which I think is really an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, that is really cool. And after seeing all there is in town, which there's a lot from all the different historical perspectives and museums and the lake, people will get hungry. And there's going to be a great food scene in Wilson, too.
There is a good food scene in Wilson. The snack shack, I think, everybody thinks of a snack shack as just a place to go get a burger, but the
Uh huh.
fact is that they do homemade meals there too. And a lot of times they will do different Czech meals that are made by the cook that is there. It kind of Czech meals. I don't know how many people have been to the Czech Republic, but you've got schnitzel, you've got pork loin, you've got, of course, mashed potatoes
Mm-hmm.
and red cabbage, sauerkraut. Those are all things that are extremely well liked as part of the Czech food. The hotel, and during the Czech Fest, which is in July, the senior center, the Catholic Church, the Lutheran Church, the hotel, we all do complete Czech meals so that people can really sit back and enjoy everything that they anticipate as that Eastern Slavic fare. It's great. They love it, and it's a great family thing.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing because I was going to ask you, which was, what is the Wilson specialty? Well, obviously, it's the Czech fare. Um, you know, I always ask this question too. If somebody were to come to Wilson to visit, are there those local favorites that the visitors may not necessarily know about?
Well, I'm going to say the local favorites are the festivals.
Mm.
Because so what not everybody knows. Okay, so we have three festivals. The
Uh
first
huh.
one that is the first weekend in May is the Paper Moon Festival. And a lot of people don't know that the Paper Moon was filmed in the hotel and filmed all over the city of Wilson. And so when we do the Paper Moon Festival, we do fried chicken and homemade pie all
Uh-huh.
weekend long. And we show the Paper Moon movie. We bring
Mm-hmm.
in a swing band
Oh wow.
with a oh yeah with dancers, and the dancers are there to teach everybody how to dance to the swing band. And in addition to that, we have a stick horse race for the kids. We have an ice cream social. We have a vintage market. It's really a fun weekend. Oh, and the one thing that is really cool because this is our fourth year for doing it.
Uh-huh.
We bring in a theater group that goes around to all the different spots in Wilson and reenacts the that particular scene that was in Paper Moon.
Oh,
So that's probably a lot of people know about that, but not the people that should because it's a lot of fun. And then in the end of July, we have what's called the After Harvest Czech Fest, and this was, I don't know how many people think of Kansas as flat and not much else, but when the Czechs came to that area, they were wheat farmers. There was a lot of wheat farmers. Now, as time has gone on, you'll see a rotation of crops, that type of thing. But wheat is normally harvested in July, and so there would be a big after harvest festival, and it then became the Czech Festival because
oh,
we have the most incredible group of kids. I think we get up to 40 kids at a time
oh wow.
that have Czech. They have what's called a kroy, which is a native dress from the region that you're from, and they do Czech fests. They do dances at Czech Fest, but they also do them at the state fair. They go to different events and do their Czech dancing. and it's from like 3 to teenage age, and
Oh,
it is fabulous. It is so much fun. But the Czech Fest, we have polka bands, we have dancing, and like I mentioned, everybody is making Czech food. We have a big parade, so it ends up being just a wonderful time. We have a carnival, a wonderful time for the kids, a wonderful time for the parents, a wonderful time to spend together with everyone. So that is a great thing. I will say that we have a splash park and playgrounds and all that kind of stuff that I hate to say, but sometimes those are hard to find.
yeah.
And so in the summertime, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, anybody can come in and use all of those, which I think is a great deal. I can remember traveling as a kid. We used to stop in small towns and have a picnic. What a perfect place to do it. I
Yeah.
mean, and your kids can cool off in the splash park. It's great.
Yeah.
So let me mention the last festival, which is we do a blues festival
Oh,
it's the third week in September, and that is really amazing. We have been so lucky. Our headliner this year is up for a Grammy. We're real proud of him. It's the second year. And then we're doing a master class in blues guitar, and so we're really trying to expand it out, and it's outside. We have a great outside stage, and people can bring their lawn chairs. And again, it just is a fun family time because everybody gets to run around. They're not pinned into a stadium, or they don't have to sit next to somebody. They can sit, if the kids want to go over and play with the chickens and behind the hotel, they can go play with the chickens. It's a safe neighborhood, and everybody gets to run around and have a great time.
a true community event. I do love that.
Exactly.
And throughout the festivals, and even in town for that matter, recognizing this Czech heritage, can you find souvenirs for that? I imagine, would you be able
Oh,
to get like a Czech
absolutely.
egg?
So we have something called the Kansas Originals, and they do specialize in products from Kansas, but they have Czech eggs there, they have Czech food there, they have kolaches there. Um, they have artists who specialize in Czech motifs. So it's really one of our premier gift shops, to find things that you can take home to remind you of our Czech heritage and of the rural experience, which I think is fun. They've got an artist there that takes old farm implement equipment and makes sculpture, and he does a beautiful job. Absolutely, it is so much fun. He'll do chickens, he'll do tractors. I mean, it really is. And then you start looking at what he made them out of, and it's just amazing. So we do have a lot of art in town, and both Kansas Originals and the Midland Mercantile promote the art from the area, which I think is really important.
I love that. And I always ask this question too, which I've been told is the hardest question of all, which is what is the best time of year to come visit Wilson?
Not January. Can we
Not
just, we'll
January.
start with that. Not
Okay.
January. We just never know what's going to happen in January. I would say in May it is gorgeous
Uh huh.
because all of the wildflowers are coming out, and that is a really, really special time. And then the nice thing about the summer is it's hot, but you have the lake, you can go swimming. It's amazing. But I would have to say my very, very, very favorite time would be the fall, when The native grasses, when they start turning that rust color, and you drive by those pastures and you see these amazing rusts and reds and deep purples. I mean, it is truly a gorgeous time to be there.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Well, Melinda, I really thank you for joining us today. We've had so much fun exploring Wilson.
Well, I really appreciate it. It's an amazing place to be, and I hope people come out and visit us because it's like no other experience you can have.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like it. Well, thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.